Hello, beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and hopefully fall asleep, all while you deepen in your connection with your angels who love you so. I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And this includes one-on-one angel sessions, soul mentoring, and a variety of classes designed to help you find your wings. It is my great joy to love, encourage, and support you on your path of light. And so in the morning or tomorrow, when you are awake, I invite you to visit me at my website, illuminatingsouls.com, where you can find out more about my services and offerings. You can also find me on Facebook. I have a page where I publish inspiring messages every day. And also I have an email inspiration blast where I will joyfully send you an email message each day. So tomorrow you can just mosey on over to my website where you'll find information about all of this. But for now, the angels and I are here to help you hopefully fall asleep. If you're new to the World of Sleep podcasts, here's my suggestion. I recommend turning the volume down so you can hear it, but not so that it's so loud that you're compelled to listen to every word I say. The hope is that my voice will be comforting and inviting enough that it'll be easy for you to drift off. And while it may sound odd to be recording an hour's worth of content in hopes that you'll be asleep by the end, I assure you that is the intention. So we'll be together for about an hour, usually about the first 20 minutes or so. I share with you a little bit about the energy we're experiencing, and I bring in the angels. And then I tell you a story. And I promise not to share anything that is so important that you will feel compelled to stay awake. Instead, think of this as your bedtime ritual, where you are loved and the light comes in to support you, and your energy field is soothed so that it makes it easier for you to rest. So as I was getting ready to record this episode, I was contemplating how still the energy feels to me. As I record this, it's a Sunday, and I love Sundays. Typically, the energy is quieter than it is during the week, and I am one who cherishes the quiet energy, even if I sometimes judge myself for taking advantage of it. For instance, I have many things on my list of things to do or things that I want to get done, and I have zero inclination to take action on any of them because this energy is deliciously still. It's so rare that it is this quiet. And I don't mean just the volume, the audible volume. I mean the vibration feels still. And so this is my invitation to you to feel the stillness that is present with us right now. Because it is deeply compatible with sleep and rest and replenishment. So you just take a deep breath in and release. And just feel these waves of quiet that I am sending to you now. Feels like a still river, sometimes when the river grows quiet. And all of a sudden you can hear the rustle of leaves. And it's absolutely delicious. So allow your body to receive these waves of relaxation. Cozy on up and snuggle on in. Allowing your bed to support your body in a way that feels deeply comfortable for you. And the angels are helping to amplify these soothing, relaxing energies for you. And I'm going to call in the angels. Even though they are already here, I so appreciate the ritual of calling them in. So Father, Mother God, just now we ask for the clearing. We ask to be surrounded, uplifted, and filled with the clear white light of divine love. And beautiful angels on high, we ask that you join us here. And I ask that you infuse this broadcast with waves of divine love calibrated for each of the beloveds who is with us now. Please help to bring healing and soothing energy to them to help ease their burdens, clear away anything that might have them feeling anxious or concerned, helping each of the beloveds to come into their center, into the wholeness of their spirits. And dear ones, just take a deep breath in and release, and imagine, if you will, that the room that you are in is being filled with a soft pink light that ripples divine love to you and to all that you love. So that as you receive this love, the angels ripple it also wherever it is needed. You don't have to take care of that. They'll take care of that for you. Because the angels know your heart. They know your truth. And they are here to support you. And so just breathe and feel the love. And also imagine that you're starting to feel a little floaty. Floaty, feeling a lightness of spirit spirit coming to you. Because as you rest with your permission, the angels are going to help raise your vibration so that you have more altitude, so that it becomes easier for you to access the higher frequencies such as happiness and joy, lightness of spirit, and well-being. And I think we've done this in a previous episode, but I don't quite remember which one, but I'm guided to do this with you again. So many years ago, it would have been sometime after I started channeling, I was awake in the wee hours of the morning, contemplating, worrying about something. I don't even remember what it was, but it weighed heavily on me, and I called in Josephus and the angels for help. And they said, well, we could come in and try to talk to you about the issues, but what we would rather do is bring to you the vibration of divine joy so that you can receive it and it can inform you. And it was such a lovely invitation. I was intrigued with this process. So what they would go on to teach is that we often think of joy or happiness as causal. Yes, I am joyful because fill in the blank, because I get to see you, because I got the promotion. The joy gets coupled with some event or some experience. But what if joy simply exists as a vibration? And what if we infuse this joy energy into our energy fields and it helps us to feel better, to feel more resourceful? And the angels explain this in a way similar to how when our bodies are depleted of a certain nutrient, let's say vitamin D, when our vitamin D levels are balanced, we feel better. And the same is true vibrationally. So I often do this in my classes. Depending on our theme, the angels will bring forward an attunement of divine joy. The way you might bask in the sunlight to get warm, the angels bring in the light of divine joy to inform our energy fields. And so this is what I'm guided to do for you tonight with the angels taking the lead. So here's how it'll work. Get comfortable if you're not already, and take some breaths in and out. And imagine, if you will, the imagination as a great gateway to receive these frequencies that the angels are bringing to you, a download, an attunement, filled with divine joy that has been calibrated just for you. So begin to imagine what this would feel like. What is divine joy? What would it feel like as you? And allow it to inform your energy field, your mind, your heart, and your body. Just breathe in the vibration of divine joy. And it's all right if you're not feeling anything or if you're not aware of anything. These energies are subtle. But imagine going to sleep on a pillow of divine joy that is cradling you and holding you aloft. It's holding you up off the earth a little bit so that you can reconnect with the beautiful divine source energies that help to center you and infuse you with your true light of spirit. So just allow the divine joy to inform you, to help you remember the brightness of your spirit. Make space for yourself to come into deep intimacy with divine joy. To know that you are not responsible for chasing it down or making it happen, that it exists. And as you raise your vibration up and as divine joy is brought to you, that it helps refuel you. So imagine, if you will, that a cascade of light is coming to you. And your entire beingness knows how to absorb this. You are like a flower on a sunny day, that the flower that just sort of stands a bit taller because the sun is out. This is how your vibrational field responds to the vibration of divine joy. It is a part of your very essence, and it calls to you, and it dances with you, and it helps you remember who you are as a beloved of God. Just allowing yourself to raise up in altitude a little bit to receive. Allowing it to cascade across your body, especially informing any muscle groups that might be tight. For instance, allowing divine joy and divine light to loosen those muscles in your neck and your shoulder, cascading down your spine, your back, your sacral chakra, just letting the big muscle groups and the small ones all relax down as you receive this nurturing and this attunement from your beautiful team of angels who are here to love and support you. And breathe deep into your heart, making space for divine joy to enter your heart chakra and your solar plexus, even bringing divine joy to the tips of your fingers and the tips of your toes. And feel the beautiful, bright frequencies coming to you now that are here to help inform you, that are here to help inspire you, that are here to help open your path of ease and grace. You are truly a beautiful blessing in this world. And you have an intimate relationship with the vibration of divine joy. It always exists here for you, just as all the colors of the rainbow always exist in the universe, even when they're not visible to you. You know the colors still exist. And you know the love of God is still present, just as you know now that the vibration of divine joy is also always here. And this is your invitation to tilt your face towards the light and receive. allowing God's pleasure to shine upon you. To recognize in this moment that you are loved. And your life is a blessing to this earth. The world is brighter because you are here. And the angels and I are so deeply grateful for this opportunity to love and support you. And if you're open to it, the angels will work with you tonight while you sleep to help calibrate you to even more waves of divine joy, so that in the coming days and weeks you become even more familiar with the flow of divine joy that is available to you and through you. Isn't that a lovely invitation? I'm going to take them up on that too. And so you just go ahead and drift off. The angels are with you. And I'm going to tell you a story. So tonight I thought we could jump in the Wayback Machine together and visit Hollywood in 1919. We did this once before in a previous episode, and I found it so interesting, and perhaps you did too. And I was guided to do this again. So in this context, we are talking about Hollywood, the neighborhood, versus Hollywood, the entertainment industry. And as I've shared with you before, especially for those of you who live in other countries, the urbanization and the development of many of the major cities here in the U.S. is relatively new. That the Los Angeles that you know now did not exist in the early 1900s. It was still a city that had much undeveloped land, and so we're going to hear a bit about that. So this is from the publication Holly Leaves, which was all about the area of Hollywood. And this is from July 12th, 1919. This was just a little article that I found fascinating. It says, the DeMille Aviation Field, so that would have been Cecil B. DeMille, who had an aviation field. Remember, at this time, airline travel was still relatively new. So the DeMille Aviation Field at Crescent and Melrose has been recommended by the Committee of City Officials and Army Officers for use as Los Angeles's municipal landing place for airplanes and airships. 5 sites were inspected and viewed from every angle. The DeMille Field was declared to possess the greatest number of points in its favor: transportation facilities, water, power, contiguity to the city proper, proximity to skilled aeromechanics, hangars, and other facilities. So I had to look this up. I thought they meant Crescent Heights, but what I didn't know was that Fairfax Boulevard is what Crescent used to be. So this airfield would have been at Fairfax and Melrose, which is now urban. And it's fascinating to me that this was so undeveloped that it could be used as an aviation field. There also is a little snippet. I don't know who Madame Nazimova is, but she purchased the W.H. Hay residence at 8080 Sunset Boulevard. And that is now where Crescent Heights and Sunset is. So that used to be a residential area. We'll keep going. And this next article outlines some of the residential real estate transfers or sales that have happened. So here's some of the homes that were sold. a 3-acre hilltop lot, number 1, in Laughlin Park. I'm not sure where that is. For the Laughlin Park Company for $32,000. And they plan to erect a magnificent residence on this lot immediately. A lot on Havenhurst Drive, and the price was $2,050. A 9-room Swiss chalet at 1759 Taft Avenue for $13,000. A 6-room bungalow at 6320 Fountain Avenue for $26,50. The southwest corner of Sunset Boulevard and Fuller for $5,375. A 13-room residence at 806 Rodeo Drive for $16,500. The W.C. Hillman residence at 1745 Orange Drive for $30,000. And then there's an ad for a grocery store. I always find it so interesting to hear how much things cost. So how about if I share this with you? So on special, it's Golden Age macaroni spaghetti noodles, and those are 5 cents a package. Kellogg's peanut butter and a 7-ounce glass is 12 cents. Walnuts are 38 cents a pound. Almonds are 35 cents a pound. Peeled apricots are 35 cents a pound. Cream of wheat is 28 cents. Grape nuts are 18 cents. 5 pounds of gold medal flour, 45 cents. Now we get to the good stuff. A pound of Ghirardelli's chocolate, 35 cents. Hershey's half-pound cocoa, 21 cents. We have some cheese, so Tillamook, I'm assuming that must be cheddar, 45 cents a pound. They have coffee, which runs about 50 cents a pound. They have grape juice, Welch's. It's so interesting to see which of these brands are still around. So Welch's grape juice was 70 cents, I think, for a quart. Heinz ketchup, 32 cents for a quart. And this is Hoffman's grocery store near Hollywood and Cherokee. And there's an article here about the founding of the Griffith Park complex, which includes the Greek Theater and the Griffith Park Observatory. So it says, Griffith Park, bordering Hollywood on the northeast, is to have a Greek theater in Vermont Canyon at the head of Vermont Avenue, according to the will of Colonel Griffith J. Griffith, donor of the 3,000-acre park, who died on July 4th. According to the donor's instructions, the theater is to cost at least $100,000. This is in fulfillment of plans made by Colonel Griffith several years ago, when, at the instigation of prominent Hollywood people, including D.B. Peck, editor of the Hollywood Inquirer, Dr. E.S. Todd, and T.W. Brotherton, he offered to donate a Greek theater to the city. The offer, however, was not accepted, and the matter was left to work itself out in Colonel Griffith's mind and heart with the present result. Colonel Griffith's benefaction also includes an observatory on the top of Mount Hollywood and a Hall of Science. Colonel Griffith's offer was formally made in June 1913 when a large number of citizens assembled in Vermont Canyon and speeches of presentation and congratulation were made. At that time, Colonel Griffith gave an outline of the circumstances leading up to the donation of the park to the city of Los Angeles, about 17 years before, telling of his visits to the various parks of the world and of his ambition to make Griffith Park one of the greatest parks of them all, which was possible on account of its natural advantages. Colonel Griffith stated that he would be delayed in building the observatory and science hall on top of Mount Hollywood, for the work could not be started until the road was completed, and for other reasons. I think, therefore, he said, I may as well spend my ready money now by building this Greek theater you people are planning. I have been over the ground. I know how perfect are the acoustics of the natural amphitheater. In speaking of the project at the time, the Los Angeles Examiner said, plans for the proposed theater have been prepared by Laurie Davidson Cox, landscape architect for the City Park Commission. Concerning the adaptability of the proposed site for the theater, Mr. Cox declared that it would not be possible to find a place more ideal in every way for that purpose. There exists in the canyons a natural depression, he explained, in the mountainside, so perfect in its form, so fine in its acoustic properties, that it would be easily possible to construct there a theater as large as that of ancient Syracuse or the theater of Dionysus at Athens with a seating capacity for 30,000 people. The theater as planned will face the west and will be built of concrete upon the natural rock foundation of the hillside. It will be similar in form to the best of ancient Greece, the seats being in concentric rings divided by radial stairways. It is planned to divide the hill into 4 sections, separated by promenades, and a similar promenade shaded by overhanging pergolas will surround the upper rim. The stage will be modeled to meet the demands of modern use, with general form being of Grecian architecture. The details will be simple, classic, and the material will be of white concrete. It is planned to bring the streetcars up from Vermont Avenue to a point opposite the theater where a station and other formal park features will be grouped together. The theater as planned will be made to accommodate a monster audience either day or night. It is believed it will afford an opportunity for all interested people of the city to hear a great musical organization at any time or a great speaker. Colonel Griffith himself outlined the equipment for the Hall of Science and the observatory as follows. A model of the solar system showing the relative sizes of the sun and planets. A small coelstat, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right, and spectroscope to show the sun's image in the solar spectrum, a fair-sized celestial globe showing the position of the brighter stars, a good collection of illuminated transparencies of photographs of the sun, planets, nebula, comets, etc., beautiful lighted exhibits of birds and fishes shown in natural posture in the midst of their native environment. It is believed that much valuable assistance can be had from the American Museum of Natural History and similar institutions in Europe. A crowning feature in the Hall of Science will be an evolutionary museum like the one planned for the Throop College, with illustrations showing the formation of worlds and then tracing the developments of life on this planet, from the most rudimentary organic forms to the highest civilization of the present time. The Hall of Science will be so constructed that it will have a large moving picture plant for educational purposes and a seating capacity for several thousand people. High and above the Hall of Science will be the popular observatory, complete with its 12-inch telescope. And if you've ever been to Los Angeles, you will know that his vision came to pass. The Greek Theater is a really magnificent place to see or hear a concert, and Griffith Observatory is breathtaking. And good on him for having the vision and the resources to bequeath that to the city. It is a gift that continues giving. So over 100 years later, people are still finding joy at Griffith Park and Griffith Observatory. I mean, what could have so easily been developed for houses and individuals was created for the greater populace, and it is a beloved area of Los Angeles now. That's really beautiful. And there's an ad here for the Crotona Institute of Theosophy. I mentioned this in the last one we did about Hollywood. It was up in the mountains of Hollywood. So Foothill and Vista Del Mar Avenue in Hollywood. Free public lecture every Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock. All branches of Theosophy taught in the Institute. 6 weeks summer session, June 9th to July 19th. Students may enter at any time. Ask for syllabus. Mailed free on application. The phone number is 57552, so a much shorter string of numbers. Library, cafeteria, and campus open to the public daily, and theosophical literature is on sale. Oh, I would love to have been able to go to that. That would have been remarkable. If you haven't looked at any of the theosophical literature that's out there, you are in for a treat. And here's some information about a spectacular house that was being built in Beverly Hills. It says, among the building enterprises of the Frank Moline Company are 4 attractive homes soon to be erected in various residential districts for clients of Mr. Moline. Thorne of Chicago, a residence of the Spanish Renaissance type of architecture, which will soon be erected on Lexington Road, Beverly Hills, where the owner has purchased a 5-acre knoll site. The house, containing 17 rooms, will cost approximately $50,000, which was a lot of money back then. It will have terraced gardens, a group of fountains, and a Spanish courtyard. Another of these homes is for W.A. Holt, advertising manager of Bullock's, at 515 Irvington Boulevard, Windsor Square. It will be of the colonial type of architecture, will contain 11 rooms, and cost about $20,000. A home also of the colonial type will be built by the same firm for Mrs. A. J. Verheyen at the corner of Selma and Laurel Avenues. This house will contain 14 rooms and will have a site of 2 acres. The Italian Renaissance style of architecture has been selected for the home being built for Mrs. J. H. Myers at the corner of 6th Street and Lorraine Boulevard, Windsor Square. It will have 12 rooms and will be surrounded by an Italian garden. And I just thought now would be a good time to share with you that I actually lived on Laurel Avenue for about a year when I lived in Los Angeles. Not that that has anything to do with anything else, just a little tidbit from my life. And here's news of another home. This says Mrs. Jeanette G. Donovan was hostess Thursday evening at a musical and out-of-door barbecue at her new home at 6633 Sunset Boulevard in honor of several prominent people. Mrs. Donovan's new home is built in a novel manner, having a large studio living room with a ceiling 16 feet high. She was compelled to build thus in order to accommodate her many large paintings and antiques which she has brought from Europe. The grounds also have many unique features, including a fish pond and fountain with indirect lighting. One of the pleasures of the evening was a barbecue supper baked in the out-of-door fireplace and served in the large open court, which was prettily lightened with Japanese lanterns. An interesting musical program was furnished by Miss Sophie Bernard and her husband Lou Anger. Mr. McCarger and Robert Nathan, who are with Remerick in New York, gave some of their original song compositions, and Miss Rachel Ward, who is an accomplished musician, gave piano numbers. Well, that would have been a good soiree if we had gone in the Wayback Machine and could have wrangled an invitation, huh? And there are other issues that this series of magazines are talking about during this time. One is the Parks Committee, where they were looking to figure out what kind of parks and where to put parks within Hollywood. And the other was the cable, I don't know that they were cable cars, the electric cars that were going as public transportation. And I remember when I lived in Los Angeles, they would still talk about how a lot of these tracks were removed, ultimately to the detriment of the city. So I'll read you one of these articles. It's titled Franklin Avenue Cars. Businessmen by the hundreds along Hollywood Boulevard have signed the petition protesting against the removal of the Pacific Electric tracks and service from Argyle and Vine Streets. If they had read the Holly Leaves edition and had read the Holly Leaves editorials on this question several weeks ago and had taken them to heart, they might have made their protest in time to have prevented the Hollywood Board of Trade from endorsing the project for the abandonment of this small section of our streetcar transportation. We have always been opposed to the giving up of this service, and now that other interests in the community have been aroused to the gravity of the situation, we shall hope to see the Board of Trade take another view of the matter. We would like to call the attention of the Board of Trade, of the streetcar company, and of the community as a whole to the desirability of hooking up the Franklin Avenue car line and the Santa Monica car line by using Hollywood Boulevard and Highland Avenue as the collecting link. The cars should come out from the city on Hollywood Boulevard to Western Avenue, up Western to Franklin, out Franklin to Argyle, down Argyle and Vine to Hollywood Boulevard, down Hollywood Boulevard to Highland, down Highland to Santa Monica Boulevard, and back over the Santa Monica Boulevard line to the city. The cars that come out from the city on Santa Monica Boulevard should reverse this route and make the return by Franklin Avenue line. In this way, we would have a constant service binding all Hollywood together at all times of the day and evening. If Hollywood is to keep and strengthen its identity and its individuality as a community, it must build up and not tear down this interchange between the center and the circumference. And it is by just seemingly little things as this Franklin Avenue car line affair that we shall make or break our community. And here's an article that was going on about developing the park system. It says, the little company of park enthusiasts that assembled at the Women's Club building last Monday evening was amply repaid for the effort by the pictures thrown upon the screen by G. Gordon Whitnall of the City Planning Association, showing what has been done in the way of parks and playgrounds in other cities. Many of the views were of Chicago parks and had an added interest because from photographs taken by Professor Francis A. Blackburn of Hollywood, who with Mrs. Blackburn was present in the audience. These views were beautifully colored and were highly complimented by the speaker for that reason. Mr. Whitnall said that the Chicago park system, present and planned, was the most complete in the world and was to cost $240 million, largely because undertaken too late in the city's history to get the advantage of vacant lands and low land values. It was because it was hoped in some degree to avoid this mistake in the history of Los Angeles that the park idea was now being pushed in Hollywood and other parts of the city. Answering the objection met by some of the park workers that the park system would raise taxes, Mr. Whitnell cited the prospect of lower tax burdens in some other departments as an offset. It was explained that under a law just passed, the burden of paving and maintaining such through boulevards as Hollywood and Sunset would be removed from the street frontages and replaced in the city in general. This saving might well go to help funds for the park. In the discussion that followed Mr. Whitnell's talk, it was brought out that $500,000 for Hollywood parks would mean only about 50 cents a foot in Hollywood frontage, and that the spreading of this small tax over a period of 20 to 40 years, as provided by law, would make the burden infinitesimal and negligible. James Withers, the lad who was leading in the membership contest, told the people about some of his experiences in getting his 88 members for the Park Association and promised 50 more by Friday night. Other experiences and valuable advice were given by Gabor Hagi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right, Mrs. Blackburn, and others. An application blank for membership in the Hollywood Memorial Park and Playground Association can be found on page 17. And here's an article about a wedding. I always love these. It says, at a brilliant home wedding on Wednesday evening, Miss Clara Elizabeth McNeese, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. S.J. McNeese of 6272 Sunset Boulevard, became the bride of Ralph McCabe Haywood, son of Mr. and Mrs. L.A. Haywood of 1640 Argyle Avenue. The ceremony was performed in the presence of about 60 friends by the Reverend Homer Pittman, formerly of Dayton, Ohio, at the home of the Haywoods, where he had baptized the groom in his infancy. The bride was gowned in white georgette beaded. She wore a veil and carried bride's roses. Her bridesmaid was Miss Ruth Bowron of Los Angeles, who was gowned in pink and carried pink roses. Mr. Haywood's best man was Joseph Riddick, a friend of his university days. There were no other attendants save the little ring-bearer, Georgia French. The wedding music consisted of Because and Dawning, and both bride and groom are graduates of the Hollywood High School, from which Miss McNeese went to the normal school and then spent 3 years as teacher in Nevada and Arizona. Mr. Haywood, after his high school course, continued his studies at the University of Southern California, from which he entered the service and was in officers' training camp when the armistice was signed. Mr. and Mrs. Haywood are to live at Catalina Island, where they will be at home after a brief honeymoon in a cozy cottage overlooking mountains and sea. So they're going to be living in Catalina, which is interesting. It said, since his discharge from the Army, the groom has been in business with his father with dry goods stores in Hollywood and Avalon, and the young man has now taken over the Catalina store as his own enterprise, the wedding gift of his father. He has been prominent in Hollywood, especially in the young people's activities of the First Methodist Church, and the best wishes of many friends of both groom and bride follow them to their island home. Congratulations, 100 years later. And here's some urban planning. A petition has been presented to the City Council for the opening of Beechwood Drive from the present stub end at what would be DeLongpre Avenue extended through to Sunset Boulevard. The lands concerned is a part of the Cole property, and the opening has been in contemplation for a long time. The improvement will fill a long-felt need, and many residents and property owners are anxious for its early consummation. So for those of you who know Beechwood Canyon, Beechwood Drive, very popular place. And here's another article about urban planning, Lower Cahuenga Pass. The highway through mountains likely to be improved as country club result, new building planned. The improvement of the highway through Cahuenga Pass by the cutting down of the grade at the top is one of the benefits that the public is likely to obtain from the success of the Hollywood Country Club, whose membership roster is now being formed. The club home will be the famous Holt Estate on the Ventura Road, and the resulting increased traffic between that point and Hollywood is expected to bring to a head the long contemplated lowering and widening of the pass therefore. The plan most in favor is to cut a new roadway along the right-of-way of the Pacific Electric Line just west of the tracks and at practically the same level. This road would then be used as one-way boulevard up and pass, while the present road would become the one-way boulevard down. The improvement of the highway through the pass will be one of the first questions taken up when the new club begins operations. Plans for the new locker and shower building of the club have already been approved. Plans are also being drawn for the club gymnasium and plunge, which will be in another building. So there's some background about Cahuenga Boulevard, Cahuenga Pass, which I have driven on many a time. And we'll end with this little article. It says, "Only yesterday, a backward glance at the Hollywood of the past and a glimpse of the future," by E.K. Isaacs. Some hold that there is no yesterday and no tomorrow, that all is today and eternal now. The majority of us, however, take cognizance of the three major tenses of our grammars, past, present, and future, and conduct our life switching on the three-way plan. The average mortal seems to live as much in the past and in the future as in the present. It was only yesterday, some 25 years ago, that my little black horse and buggy took me back and forth from Los Angeles to a Lancashire peach orchard. And I should say the Lancashire peach orchard was likely in the valley that was known, I think, as like the Lancashire Ranch area. I think that's what he's talking about. The dusty road made a cragged turn at what is now the great business center of Sunset and Cahuenga, but which then had only a little country store, a saloon, and a watering trough in front, and a mud puddle in front of the trough. I stopped regularly at that front watering trough for the benefit of the horse, for even then it was recognized that cold water was good for the horse radiator, and a cool mud puddle was considered soothing and vulcanizing for the horse's tread. In due course the horse, of its own accord, stopped regularly at said watering place, but whether for its own benefit or that of the driver is a question with an objecting attorney would designate as incompetent, irrelevant, and immaterial. Continuing north from Sunset, we encountered a traffic officer at the intersection of Cahuenga and Hollywood Boulevard. The traffic officer was a trespass officer, a scarecrow, to give visual and telepathic suggestions to the tribes of fur and feather to further their interests and feather their nests elsewhere. Winding up Cahuenga, we came to where Cahuenga meets Highland, only they did not meet, for there was no highland, although high land was in evidence on all sides. There was a house at that point which they called a roadhouse, but my black horse developed no inclination to stop there, first because there was no watering trough, and second because a frightful-looking and sounding turkey gobbler raced the engine of the steed to apply the emergency brake even on the upgrade. It might be remarked that also then the acoustic qualities of that locality were such that a woman could hear herself talk at some distance. In that yesterday there were no reckless and wreckful, high-powered sightseeing trucks to dispute the right-of-way with Van Nuys or other nice red trolley cars, and that made the accident rate lower. The law of compensation was as operative yesterday as it is today. And thus, as we meditate on the Hollywood of today and contemplate the Hollywood of tomorrow, we cannot escape the conclusion that Hollywood, as well as the movies, is moving, and that progress as well as the airplanes is in the air. Yesterday, a small, dusty, ganglionic center at Sunset and Cahuenga with a few chuck-holed roads radiating. Today, a score or more of ganglionic business centers with miles upon miles of paved boulevards, avenues, and streets, lined with business buildings, stately apartment houses, flat buildings, and dwellings, ranging from cozy colonial to magnificent mansion. Tomorrow, Hollywood Boulevard, solid business from Vermont to La Brea, with a few skyscrapers in the bargain, all residence streets improved and beautified, mansions galores on hillsides and knolls, parks and playgrounds and Greek theaters in the hollow of nature's hand, and adequate streetcar service. Of course, churches and schools and clubs will continue in the forefront as evidence that the religious and intellectual and social phases of the community are on par and above par in relation to the so-called material phases. If Paul were a citizen of Hollywood now, he would perhaps address us thus: profiting by the things of the past, let us reach forth unto those things that are before, and press toward the mark for the prize of Hollywood's high calling. That's so interesting. I wonder what he would make of Hollywood now, which is so crowded, so developed. So there you go, a little voyage in the Wayback Machine to the Hollywood of 1919. And I hope by now you are asleep. If you're not, you can queue up another episode and the angels and I will continue keeping you company. And I wish you the sweetest of dreams. I wish you joy. I wish you well-being. And I wish you blessings of love. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.